I saw colored dots before me, and strangely moved. Then, on each side, was a shadow that I could not quite explain. On the south wall and the west wall, about the same height, about 3 feet off the ground. Or maybe that's 4. And then there was a shadow below, and then a shadow above, and then a shadow to the east. And things were more full of that black shadowiness. But there was some white with it, bringing about a sort of contrast. I heard something in the north, outside of the temple, like a metallic movement in the air. I also sensed a presence above. And in the final thing that I saw and felt with a heaviness was in the place not too far from in front of my chest. And there was a dark thing that moved. The knees are genitals, is seen as a gateway to the rest of the archetypal body. A series of theories and a series of types of operations are certainly important. I would agree that a person shouldn't just do Enochian magic because, it's an important thing out there. They should have some sort of understanding of what it is. But I think you can go straight to the material and make your own decisions. You don't have to believe as they did. You don't have to work it like John Dee and Edward Kelly did. You definitely see how Aleister Crowley was influenced by that. And the sense of individualism in Thelema, I would agree with. And I would also agree with the, mention of in this book about categorizing, through different terms that don't require you of looking into how Aleister Crowley is, certain figures and movements that you might classify him under or compare him to. And I, as a side note to the references of the Golden Dawn, I would say also that the Enochian system is like a series of degrees that you get. Whichever of the 5 you work with work with them all. They are a series of initiations that aren't just, you do an operation, you have an experience. There's, development and all sorts of stuff that goes along the way. And that, of course, depends on your experience. There's a difference between the Hermetic Kabbalah and the Jewish Kabbalah, because certainly the Jewish Kabbalah would limit it to a biblical perspective, and the Christian Kabbalah would, of course, be of a different sort too, because it would have theology and some myths that would not agree with the Jewish material. The Hermetic Kabbalah can be applied to any sort of faith, and just like Crowley could be said to have Sufi origins, it wouldn't be fair to deny that even the Hebrew Kabbalah has origins that aren't Jewish. But of course, Solomon predates Judaism by any real sort of analysis, by name or type of religion or whatever. And the biblical texts themselves mention and seem to borrow from a whole mess of tens of thousands of pages worth of other material. There was someone who was a member of the OTA that, misused the system described here as something to, control people, per se. But just like the occasional misuse of Aleister Crowley's stuff, one can't really totally blame that. I would agree that Aleister Crowley was more amoral than immoral, but then again, he did stuff knowing that was considered immoral, so it's not quite the same thing. But some people focused on issues with Crowley and uplifted that. Some people went the opposite direction, and things kind of rest in between. And one of the things that you see in multiple things gone over in this book is this idea of the in-between being where it's at. Like switching aspects of one side or the other in terms of a perspective. Because certainly you got to use the world, you got, and perhaps maybe we don't deserve everything good we get in this world. Hypnosis and mesmerism and all that, it has reputation for misuse. But then again, the same people that are saying, oh no, you can't do that, are the same people who are misusing the use of symbolism and stuff in their so-called secular propaganda via more mainstream media. The OTO and the AA or SS or whatever its supposed current name is, they have certainly matured. And I don't know if you could say that the EGC is the only real magical transmission or thing being taught in the OTO. Because certainly the degrees, by any definition of magic, does that. The focus, the Book of the Law, is really more of a magic book than purely the idea of Crowley as prophet. I think it has more value as a magic book than it does as with Crowley as a prophet. I think that the commitment to religions can be, altered, right? So don't be like, oh, I've started a system, I have to finish it. It's like, well, it might be best to finish it. It might not be. There is such a thing as a fascist freedom movement. Um, and there is such a thing as being in a cult without it per se being, oh, here's the master and here's what they teach, right? You can do your own thing in a cult. Well, depends on the cult, but then again, maybe it doesn't because it's your own approach. There is value to the thought that something is older than it is, but also there is value to admitting to what something really is, as far as you know. Romanticism and attachment to nature can certainly express the myths in different ways than other approaches. There's a way to combine the reference to the inner and the outer in a way that doesn't cause the conflicts that are inherent in modern society. But one does not have to do this in such a way that denies the modern science or the technology either. We can find a place of focus and use it to direct our path working, and perhaps become the sort of being that will not be so controlled. Salvation or enlightenment will come as a result of your own efforts, your own sense of responsibility, your own experience.